My son was staring at his phone again during our family dinner, and something about the way his jaw tightened when I asked him a question told me he was hiding something. Marcus had always been transparent with me. We'd built Chen's security systems together over the past 20 years, from a two-person operation in my garage to a company with 300 employees and government contracts worth millions. But lately, something had changed. I'm Robert Chen, 68 years old, and in exactly 2 weeks, I was supposed to hand over my company to my son as the new CEO. 23 years of building, growing, protecting Chen Security Systems, specialized in cybersecurity for defense contractors and government agencies. We protected secrets for a living. The irony of what was about to happen wasn't lost on me. Marcus looked up from his phone, that corporate smile sliding into place. The one he used for clients, never for family. Sorry, Dad, just work stuff. You know how it is. I did know how it is. That's what worried me. Patricia texting you about the retirement party? I kept my tone light, watching his micro-expressions. After 4 decades in security, you learn to read people. Yeah, she wants to make sure everything's perfect for your big day. He set his phone down, screen side down. Another tell. Patricia Morse had been our CFO for 6 years. Brilliant with numbers, ruthless with vendors, and lately spending an unusual amount of time in closed-door meetings with Marcus, my soon-to-be former chief financial officer, and my son, plotting my perfect send-off. Or so they wanted me to believe. 3 weeks earlier, I'd noticed the first anomaly. Nothing dramatic. Just a $47,000 wire transfer that didn't match any invoice I could find. I'd built this company on attention to detail. Every dollar accounted for. Every transaction documented. But this one transfer had no corresponding contract, no purchase order, no trail. When I'd asked Marcus about it, he'd laughed. Dad, you've got to let go a little. That was the Holloway contract down payment. I sent you the memo last month. Except I'd read every memo last month. Twice. There was no Holloway contract. I'd let it go. Maybe I had missed it. Maybe this was exactly why I needed to retire. Hand the reins to the younger generation. Trust the process. But then, I'd found 3 more. $89,000, $126,000, $215,000, all within the past 4 months. All with explanations that sounded reasonable until you actually went looking for the paperwork. I'd spent 30 years protecting other people's data. Now, I was going to protect my own. The company retreat was on Saturday, 3 days before my retirement party. We'd rented out the Riverside Conference Center, the whole executive team and their spouses. Team-building exercises. Vision casting for the company's future. A celebration of the old guard passing the torch to the new. I watched Marcus give his presentation about the 5-year strategic plan. He was good, confident, charismatic in that polished way that came from expensive business schools and consulting firms. He talked about expansion, new markets, innovative security solutions. Patricia sat in the front row, taking notes, nodding at all the right moments. She'd worn a blue suit that matched Marcus's tie. I'm 68, not blind. During the lunch break, I made my way to the hotel business center. I'd brought my laptop, the old secure one with my personal encryption keys, the one that still had administrator access to every system in the company, because I'd built those systems, and I never fully trusted anyone else with the master keys. I started digging. The Holloway contract didn't exist. Neither did Westridge Associates, Pemberton Industries, or Clearview Solutions. 4 completely fabricated vendors. But the wire transfers were very real. Total, $2.4 million over the past 8 months. And they all led back to an offshore account registered to a Delaware LLC called Morse Capital Holdings. My hands were shaking when I found the articles of incorporation. 2 owners, Patricia Morse and Marcus Chen. My son was stealing from me, from our company, from the employees who'd spent decades building this with us. I closed the laptop and sat there in the empty business center, listening to the distant sound of laughter from the banquet hall where everyone was enjoying their lunch, where Marcus was probably charming everyone with stories about his vision for the future he was funding with embezzled money. I needed proof. I needed documentation. But more than that, I needed to understand why. Was this just greed? Or was there something else? I spent the rest of the weekend playing the role of the happy retiring founder. I smiled for photos. I gave an impromptu speech about legacy and trust and the importance of family. I watched Marcus wrap his arm around my shoulders and tell everyone how proud he was to follow in his father's footsteps. The whole time, I was running scenarios, security protocols, how they'd covered their tracks, how they'd planned to get away with it. And I realized something chilling. My retirement party was the end game. Once I was gone, once I'd officially handed over control, they could clean up the evidence, maybe even pin it on me. Dad must have been losing it in his final years. We found these irregularities after he left. I'd given them the perfect cover story. The aging founder who stayed too long, who might have made mistakes, who everyone would be too polite to investigate too thoroughly. Monday morning, I called an old friend. Jack Morrison had retired from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit 2 years ago. We'd worked together on several cases when defense contractors had been targeted by foreign hackers. He owed me a favor. We met at a diner in Maryland, far from the office, far from anywhere Marcus might see us. "How bad is it?" Jack asked after I'd laid out what I'd found. "I've only traced $2.4 million. But if they've been this sophisticated with the cover-up, there's probably more." Jack nodded, stirring his coffee. "You want to know what I think? This isn't about the money. Not primarily. 2.4 million is a lot. But for someone in Patricia's position, someone with Marcus's future earning potential, they could make that legitimately in a few years. So what's it about? Control. Power. They want the company, Robert. All of it. And they want you gone permanently." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "What do you mean, permanently?" "Think about it. You retire. 6 months later, irregularities are discovered. Maybe they're traced back to you. Maybe there's an investigation. Maybe your reputation is destroyed. Your son, the hero, has to clean up his father's mess. He gets sympathy, admiration, complete control. Marcus wouldn't. I stopped. Because I didn't know anymore what Marcus would or wouldn't do." Jack leaned forward. "Let me make some calls." Quietly. "But Robert, you need to be careful. If they suspect you know something." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. That Tuesday, something strange happened. Sarah Kim, one of our junior accountants, sent me an email asking if we could meet. She was young, maybe 35, and had been with the company for 6 years. Quiet, competent, the kind of employee who did excellent work without fanfare. We met in my office at 7 a.m., before most people arrived. "Mr. Chen," she started, then stopped. Her hands were shaking. "I don't know how to say this." "Just say it, Sarah." "I think Patricia and Marcus are stealing from the company." I kept my face neutral. "That's a serious accusation." She pulled out a folder. "I know. That's why I've been documenting everything. I noticed it by accident 4 months ago. A vendor payment that didn't match our purchase orders. I thought it was a mistake, so I mentioned it to Patricia." "What did she say?" "She told me I was mistaken, that Marcus had approved a special contract. But then I started noticing more, and Patricia started acting strange around me. She moved me to a different project team, reduced my access to certain accounts." Sarah looked up at me, and I saw real fear in her eyes. "Mr. Chen, I think they know I noticed something, and I think they're planning something for your retirement party." "What kind of something?" "I don't know exactly, but yesterday I overheard Patricia on the phone in the conference room. She didn't know I was in the supply closet. She said, 'Once Robert's gone, we can clean everything up. He won't be a problem anymore.'" The cold feeling in my stomach intensified. "Sarah, why are you telling me this? You could lose your job, or worse, because you gave me a chance when no one else would." Her voice was steady now. "I was a single mom with a GED when you hired me. You paid for my accounting degree. You believed in me. And what they're doing, it's not just stealing money. They're planning to destroy everything you built, everything you stand for." I made a decision. "Sarah, I need you to do something for me. Can you get me complete access to Patricia's system logs for the past year? That's above my security clearance." "I know." I pulled out a USB drive from my desk drawer. This has an admin credential that no one knows about. It bypasses all the logging. Can you do it without being detected? She took the drive, her hand still shaking slightly. When do you need it? Before the retirement party. 4 days. Sarah nodded. I'll get it to you. The next 3 days were the longest of my life. I went through the motions at work, smiled at the team preparing for my retirement celebration, reviewed the transition plans with Marcus, had dinner with him and his wife, Jennifer, who seemed genuinely sad that I was leaving the company. I wish you'd stay on as a consultant, Jennifer said. The company won't be the same without you. Marcus squeezed her hand. Dad deserves his rest. He's earned it. I watched him smile at his wife, and I wondered, did she know? Was she part of this? Thursday afternoon, Sarah found me in the parking garage. She looked exhausted. I got it, she whispered, pressing a USB drive into my hand. Everything. System logs, emails, document trails. Mr. Chen, it's worse than we thought. It's not $2.4 million. It's almost $18 million. $18 million. 10% of our company's total valuation. There's something else, Sarah continued. I found emails between Patricia and someone at Morrison and Blake Associates. It's a forensic accounting firm. They've been hired to do an independent audit of the company's finances starting the week after your retirement party. The emails make it clear they're looking for irregularities that point to you. They're going to frame me. Yes. And Mr. Chen? Be careful at the party. I found this in Patricia's deleted files. She showed me her phone. An email to a journalist at the Wall Street Journal. Subject line, major cybersecurity firm founder implicated in embezzlement scheme. It was dated for the Monday after my retirement party. They weren't just going to destroy my reputation. They were going to make it national news. I'd spent my entire career protecting secrets, hunting threats, neutralizing bad actors. I'd advised government agencies on counterintelligence. I'd helped track down hackers who'd tried to breach classified systems. But I'd never imagined that the threat would come from inside my own family. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my study, looking at photos on the wall. Marcus at his college graduation. Marcus on his first day at Chen Security. Marcus's wedding. My son, who I'd loved and mentored and trusted with everything I'd built. How had I missed this? When had he changed? Or had he always been this person, and I'd been too blind to see it? My wife, Carol, had died 6 years ago from cancer. In her final weeks, she'd made me promise to take care of Marcus, to guide him, to help him become a man of integrity. I'd failed her. I'd failed to see what my son had become. Friday morning, Jack Morrison called. I've got something. Patricia Morse has been in financial trouble for years. Gambling debts, bad investments. She was about to lose her house when she started working for you. But she's the CFO. She makes a good salary. Not good enough to cover $400,000 in losses. Robert, I think she approached Marcus with the scheme. I think she's the mastermind. That doesn't excuse what he did. No, it doesn't. But it might explain it. Young executive, ambitious, probably some resentment about being in his father's shadow. Patricia offers him a way to prove himself, to build his own wealth, to step out from under your legacy, by destroying it. Yeah. Jack paused. I've been making some calls. I can't open an official investigation without more evidence, but I can be there tomorrow. At your party. Unofficial capacity, if you need backup. Thank you, Jack. What are you going to do? I looked at the USB drive on my desk. $18 million in fraud. Proof of a conspiracy. Evidence that would send my son to prison. I'm going to give them exactly what they want, I said. My retirement party. The Riverside Hotel ballroom looked perfect. 300 guests, employees, clients, partners. Everyone who'd been part of Chen Security Systems' journey. Blue and gold, balloons are company colors. A video presentation showing highlights from 23 years. Tables loaded with catered food. And at the center of it all, on the main stage, my son Marcus stood next to Patricia Morse, both of them smiling, preparing to honor me. I wore my best suit. Carol had bought it for me 5 years ago for our 40th anniversary. I could almost feel her presence, wondering what I was going to do, wondering if I had the courage to see this through. Sarah found me near the entrance as guests were arriving. She was dressed up, nervous, clutching her phone. "Mr. Chen, are you sure about this?" "I'm sure." I loaded everything onto a backup drive, just in case. She glanced around, then pressed something into my jacket pocket. The evidence. All of it. "If something goes wrong, nothing's gonna go wrong, Sarah. Trust me." She nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. The party started at 6. By 7, everyone was there. Marcus gave the opening remarks, talking about legacy and gratitude and the future of Chen's security systems. Patricia presented me with a crystal award engraved with Robert Chen. Founder, visionary, leader. I accepted it with a smile, feeling the weight of Sarah's USB drive in my pocket. Then it was time for my speech. I walked up to the podium, looking out at 300 faces. People I'd worked with for decades. People who trusted me. People who had no idea what was about to happen. 23 years ago, I began. I started this company in my garage. I had a simple vision: to protect people's most valuable information. Their secrets, their security, their trust. Marcus was smiling in the front row, Patricia beside him. They thought they'd won. I built this company on 3 principles: integrity, transparency, and accountability. And I want to talk about those principles tonight because they're more important than ever. I saw Marcus's smile flicker slightly. Something in my tone had changed. In cybersecurity, we talk a lot about threats. External threats, hackers, state actors, criminals trying to breach our systems. But there's another kind of threat we don't talk about as much. The insider threat. The person you trust who betrays that trust. Patricia had stopped smiling now. Marcus was looking at her, a question in his eyes. Over the past few weeks, I've been conducting an investigation. Not of an external threat, but of an internal one. And what I found shocked me to my core. I pulled out the USB drive and held it up. On this drive is documentation of a systematic embezzlement scheme that has stolen almost $18 million from Chen security systems over the past 2 years. The room erupted in gasps and murmurs. Marcus stood up, his face red. "Dad, what are you?" "Sit down, Marcus." Something in my voice made him sit. The scheme was sophisticated. Fake vendors, phantom contracts, offshore accounts. Whoever designed it knew our systems inside and out. They knew how to hide their tracks. They almost got away with it. I looked directly at Patricia. Her face had gone pale, her hands gripping the edge of the table. Patricia Morse and Marcus Chen created a Delaware LLC called Morse Capital Holdings. They've been funneling company funds through fabricated contracts for 24 months, and they plan to frame me for their crimes immediately following my retirement. Marcus shot to his feet. "That's insane! Dad, you can't actually believe—" "I have system logs, Marcus. I have emails. I have wire transfer records. I have communications with forensic accountants and journalists, all coordinated to destroy my reputation the moment I stepped down." The room was dead silent now. You could have heard a pin drop. Marcus's face transformed. The mask slipped, and for just a moment, I saw something ugly underneath. Resentment, anger, hatred. "You arrogant old man," he said quietly. "You couldn't just let go, could you? You couldn't just fade away peacefully. You had to control everything, even in retirement. This isn't about control. This is about theft. This is about betrayal." "Betrayal?" Marcus laughed, a bitter sound. "You want to talk about betrayal? How about spending my entire life in your shadow? How about building this company with my blood and sweat, while everyone called it Robert Chen's company? How about watching you take all the credit, all the glory, while I did all the actual work? So you stole from me, from us, from everyone in this room. I took what I deserved." His voice was rising now. "That money should have been mine anyway. This company should have been mine. Instead, I had to wait for you to finally decide to retire. And even then, you kept your hooks in everything. You couldn't stand the idea of me actually having real power." Patricia grabbed his arm, trying to quiet him. But Marcus shook her off. "We had a plan," he continued, his voice venomous now. A good plan. We were going to finally be free of you. But you couldn't even give us that, could you? You had to play detective. You had to prove you're still the smartest person in the room. I felt something break inside my chest. Whatever hope I'd had that there was a reasonable explanation, that maybe Marcus had been coerced or manipulated, it died in that moment. You're my son, I said quietly. I loved you. I trusted you with everything. Your son? Marcus's laugh was cruel. I stopped being your son the day Mom died. After that, I was just another employee, just another asset to be managed. Before I could respond, Jack Morrison stepped forward from where he'd been standing near the back of the room. He held up his FBI credentials. Marcus Chen, Patricia Morse, you're both under investigation for wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. I strongly suggest you don't leave the premises. Patricia broke then. She grabbed her purse and ran for the exit, but 2 more agents were already there, blocking the door. Marcus just stood there, staring at me with pure hatred in his eyes. You'll regret this, he said. Even if I go to prison, everyone will know you turned on your own son. What kind of father destroys his child? The kind who believes in justice, I replied. The kind who won't compromise his principles, even for family. Security, our own security team, people who'd worked for me for years, escorted Marcus and Patricia out of the ballroom. The FBI agents followed. The room remained silent. 300 people who'd come to celebrate a retirement party had just witnessed the destruction of a family and the exposure of a massive fraud. I looked down at Sarah, who'd made her way to the front. She had tears in her eyes. Thank you, I said to her, loudly enough for everyone to hear. Without your courage and integrity, this fraud would have succeeded. You risked your career and your safety to do the right thing. That's the true spirit of Chen's security systems. The applause started slowly, then built. Sarah wiped her eyes, nodding. I turned back to the crowd. I know this isn't the celebration we planned. I know many of you are shocked, hurt, confused. But I want you to know something. Chen's security systems will survive this. We will recover the stolen funds. We will rebuild trust. And we will continue our mission of protecting what matters most. I paused, gathering my thoughts. I'm not retiring. Not yet. I'm going to stay on as CEO while we navigate through this crisis. And when the time comes to hand over leadership, it will be to someone who embodies the values this company was built on. Someone like Sarah Kim, who showed more integrity in one moment than my son showed in 20 years. More applause, louder this time. The party continued, though the mood had changed from celebration to something more subdued. People came up to me throughout the evening, employees expressing their support, clients assuring me of their continued partnership, old friends offering comfort. Around 10 p.m., after most guests had left, I found myself alone in the ballroom with Jack Morrison. Hell of a retirement party, he said. Not exactly what I'd planned. The FBI will need you to come in for formal interviews next week, and we'll need to coordinate with our financial crimes unit. This is going to be a long investigation. How much time do you think they'll get? With 18 million? 10 years minimum for Patricia. Maybe 15, Marcus. Jack shook his head. He'll probably get less because he cooperated at the end. Turned on Patricia, gave us information about other aspects of the scheme we hadn't found yet. He always was good at saving himself. Robert, can I ask you something? What made you suspicious in the first place? What was the first thing that triggered your investigation? I thought about it. He looked at his phone the wrong way. During a family dinner, it was just a small thing. But after decades in security, you learn to trust your instincts about deception. That's it? A look? That's it. The rest was just following the evidence. Jack nodded. You did good tonight. I know it wasn't easy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. After Jack left, I sat alone in the empty ballroom. The decorations were still up. The video presentation was frozen on the screen, a photo of Marcus and me at his college graduation, both of us smiling. I thought about what he'd said. About living in my shadow. About feeling like he was just another employee. Maybe he was right. Maybe I had held on too tight, trusted too little, demanded too much. Maybe I'd been so focused on building the company that I'd failed to see my son struggling under the weight of my expectations. But that didn't excuse what he'd done. It didn't justify stealing $18 million. It didn't justify trying to destroy everything I'd built and frame me for his crimes. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Are you okay?" I typed back, "I will be. Thank you for everything. You saved the company tonight, Mr. Chen. We saved it together." The truth was, without Sarah's courage, I might not have caught them in time. Without her evidence, I wouldn't have had the ammunition I needed to expose the fraud. A junior accountant with no obligation to risk herself had done more to protect Chen's security systems than my own son. That said something important about character, about integrity, about what really mattered in the end. I drove home around midnight, exhausted and emotionally drained. My house felt empty without Carol. Some nights, I could still hear her voice, feel her presence. Tonight, I needed that more than ever. "What do I do now?" I said aloud to the empty living room. I could almost hear her response. "You do what you always do. You protect what matters. You rebuild. You move forward." The next morning, I called an emergency board meeting. We had damage control to do, financial audits to conduct, trust to rebuild with clients, a new succession plan to develop. But we also had an opportunity to demonstrate that Chen's security systems lived up to its name, that we protected integrity, even when it cost us everything, that we would rather expose our own failures than allow corruption to thrive. Over the next weeks and months, the story played out in the media. CEO exposes own son's $18M fraud scheme. Security company founder chooses integrity over family. The high cost of doing the right thing. Some people praised me. Others criticized me for destroying my son's life. There were think pieces about loyalty versus justice, about family bonds and moral obligations. I didn't read most of them. I was too busy rebuilding. The FBI recovered about $14 million of the stolen funds. The rest was gone, spent on Patricia's debts and Marcus's attempts to appear wealthier than he was. We tightened our financial controls, hired external auditors, implemented new oversight procedures, and I promoted Sarah Kim to Vice President of Finance. She deserved it. She'd earned it with her courage and her integrity. 6 months later, Marcus took a plea deal. 12 years in federal prison in exchange for cooperation and testimony against Patricia, who got 18 years. He never apologized, never reached out, never showed any remorse beyond what his lawyers coached him to express in court. Jennifer divorced him 3 months into his sentence. Sometimes I wonder if I should have handled it differently. If there was a way to resolve this that didn't end with my son in prison. If I should have given him a chance to explain, to make amends, to fix what he'd broken. But I know the truth. Marcus made his choices. He chose greed over integrity. He chose Patricia's manipulation over his family's trust. He chose to steal, to lie, to destroy. And I chose justice. I chose to protect the 300 employees who depended on Chen's security systems. I chose to honor the values my wife and I had instilled in this company. That choice cost me my son, but it saved my soul. Tonight, a year after that disastrous retirement party, I'm sitting in my office looking at a new photo on my wall. It's from our company's 25th anniversary celebration. Sarah is there, along with the rest of our executive team, people I trust. People who earned their positions through merit and integrity. I'm still CEO. I'll probably work until I drop dead at my desk. But that's okay. This company, this mission is worth fighting for. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Dad. I stare at it for a long moment. Then I delete it. Some betrayals can't be forgiven. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. But the company survives. The mission continues. And every day we protect what matters most. Truth, security, and the integrity that makes all of it possible. That's worth more than any inheritance. That's worth more than any family legacy. That's worth everything.